G'day everyone, from down under on this first day of spring that we've got. Remember, I am in the future to all of you people in the States and Europe. Just remember that if you want to know any Tats Lotto, well, we call them Tats Lotto numbers or anything like that, I might be able to help you out. We've got a lovely day today. Well, it's only 15, but at least it's nice and sunny outside, so I'll probably get out later and have a walk. I'm actually hoping to get a shoot done this weekend. I've been promising people a shoot with the GH5, so I want to do a portrait shoot with it to see how it handles off-camera flash. It's not something that I'd use for paid shoots. I just want to do it to see how it actually handles it. So I'm going to try and source a model if I can to try and get out and do a shoot in some canola fields and perhaps some flowering blossoms on the trees. So I thought I'd give it a go. So if I do get it actually working, I'll film it so you guys can sort of see the results that you can get from the GH5, because I'm just curious to know how well it goes for portraiture. Now I thought today we'd go through a little bit of news that I've got. So I have got a couple of things that I want to share you with news, and then I'm obviously going to take you through a shoot. But I also want to show you this little iPhone app that I've got. I've tried to sort of show it before, but I couldn't get it to work properly. So I'm going to show you that again today, because it might be worthwhile to you if you're interested in about how to do posing and things like that. So I thought that I could show you that as well. And obviously we'll have the chat running as well. Let me just bring up that chat window, because I'll just put it down here, just so I can see if you guys... Oh, Delta Dave, thank you so much. That's early to be giving me a donation like that. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. So let me just drag the chat down here so I can see it, just in case if anyone talks. And then I'll bring the chat up later on and we can have a discussion during questions and things like that. But if you can, please have ask some questions in there. I'm sure you as a group will also answer them too as we're going. And I'll have a question section later on anyway where you can ask me all questions and stuff as well. So I will go back to that as well. Jerrick's just said, what time is it in Australia right now? It is exactly 11:04 a.m. So yeah, it's 11:04 a.m. here. We've got someone from Trinidad Tobago, that's Richard. We've got Jerrick here. Reese is here from the Caribbean. I am DeBrown's here. And we've got, I'm not quite certain how to pronounce the name. Is it Italia? I'm not sure how you pronounce that name as well. Delta Dave just gave me a wonderful donation, so thanks so much, Dave. All right, so let's get stuck into this news, because it's some really interesting things, especially one of them that I want to show you is so cool. Well, we've got this. I'm not sure whether any of you saw this actually this morning. Let me just enlarge this up. And let me just crop it a little bit, just so that it's not so big. I look so hot. I love it. All right, so let's talk about this thing that's released this morning. This RXO. Well, I mean, boy, GoPro must be seriously worried about this, I think, because I would be if I was GoPro. I'd be extremely worried about what Sony have just actually announced. So it's actually called the RX1. Let me just hide this news thing. So it's called the RXO, and it's a 1-inch type sensor, which seems to be a really, really good size. And so it's going to give you 4K footage. But there's some other things about this too, which is really, really interesting. And this came out of the blue. I'm not sure whether this was mentioned on Sony Rumours or anything like that, but I didn't see it anywhere mentioned. Now, it's $700 US, so I suppose it's going to be probably $1,000 here Australian. But there's some really interesting things if you look at this camera, because it does sort of look like the new GoPro in a way, if you're looking at it. But it's basically, this is a diagram showing how it's all going to work. Like I said, it's got a 1-inch sensor. It's got this high-speed readout. And also it's saying it's waterproof in the case to 33 feet or 10 meters. You can buy a case to give extra waterproofing. It's also shockproof from 2 meters. And it's also crush-proof. Well, you'd hope it would be crush-proof, but they're saying it's quite strong in its crush-proofing. But it's the interesting thing about how this works with slow motion. It's saying here you can shoot slow motion movies at high frame rates up to 960 frames per second, 40 times normal frame rate. It's also got an anti-distortion shutter up to 1/32 thousandths of a second. It really seems like it's an interesting piece of gear. Fast continuous shooting, shoots images up to 16 frames per second to capture moving subjects. It's also got picture profiles too. Why the hell did Sony not give picture profiles on the A9? But it's got picture profiles, it's got S-Log 2. Now, the interesting thing is as well, it's got 4K clean HDMI output. I mean, wow, what a fantastic feature to have in a little camera that's this size. So you can hook it up to a monitor if you wanted to. Like, I could actually hook it up to my HD Focus, or if you had my Atmos Ninja, I could hook it up to that. And it's uncompressed high quality 4K. So you can record to an external recorder. You know, I mean, what a great piece of gear. They will talk to each other, and it also works from the Play Memories mobile app as well. So it supports up to 5 cameras. So it will talk up to 5 cameras. And these are some of the little extras that you can sort of see that you can use with it. So obviously they're going to release all of these extras like what Sony have with their, what GoPro have with their 4K cameras as well. So what a great little piece of kit. So let me know whether you think you'd be interested in this, guys, because I'm certainly interested in it. I wouldn't mind to be doing my shoots like I show for you guys and actually stick it on the the hot shoe on the top of the camera, so I could be shooting the 4K footage at the same time I'm doing my photos, so I could be showing you that. But yeah, it seems like it's a really good device. This is sort of all rigged up for it being underwater. But yeah, fantastic. These are all the little accessories that you can start to get. If I go onto here, you can see there's mounts and there's waterproof casings, things like that you can get. Cable protectors, filter kit, so you can put your filter kit on it, the spare lens protectors. So it seems to be like it's a really, really good looking device, and it's going to be interesting to see how the quality is of this. But I think being a 1-inch sensor, it's probably going to be very, very good. Yeah, so let me know whether you think it'd be really, really interesting. I've had Robert said, Delta Dave said, we use one of these during the ceremonies, and that could be set up on a camera somewhere. Fantastic. I'll probably try it just to see how the quality is on this, but it seems to be like Sony have really got a good niche here. Like I said, I think if I was GoPro, I'd be a little bit worried. I mean, they're already struggling, GoPro, in the marketplace, and this might really hit them fairly hard. I mean, I know Sony has that other action player, but this has taken that to another level. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't buy one of the Sony action players. I was thinking about one, so now I might hold off and wait for this to be released, and then I may get one. They're not saying when it's actually released, they're just saying release soon. But like I said, it's $700 US if you wanted to pre-order one right now. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about that, whether you think that it'd be something that interests you, whether you think it's sort of out of the price range for that. You know, do you think that's a reasonable price for what they're offering? I'm just curious to know too. So that's the first thing that we'll talk about. And if you have any questions, put them in there and we'll go back to them when I answer the questions with you guys. The second thing I want to show you is this is now an SR5. It's leaked. First image of the Samyang 35 1.4 lens. So this is the actual image that they're saying is going to be the Samyang 35 1.4. Now, I have on my A9, like I said, this is the one I always use, which, you know, I absolutely adore. This is the 35 1.4. I absolutely adore this lens, and it's one of my favourite lenses. That with the 85 Batis for me will cover 90% of my wedding images. So I just adore that lens. So if you didn't want to pay for that lens, I'm not sure. They're not saying yet what the rumoured price will be of that lens. Let me know if any of you want to have a guess to see what that will be in the comments. But it seems like it's a really, really interesting lens. The interesting thing is it weighs 705 grams, so it's pretty heavy, because I checked against the Sony 35 1.4, and that's only 630 grams. So it is a very, very heavy lens, but the Sony 35 1.4 is quite expensive. This is Australian, remember. They're saying here that it's, what is it? It's $2,400 for the 35 1.4. It is expensive here in Australia, isn't it? This is back to the Samyang one. I didn't have it on the thing. It's actually the pictures here if you want to have a look at it. So it's saying there that it is going to be 9 aperture blades. Now that's the same as what the 35 1.4 has. The Sony has 9 aperture blades. What else have we got? The filter size is 67. The filter size on my Sony 35 1.4 is 72. So it's smaller. The Samyang's smaller than the Sony in size, but it weighs more. It actually weighs 705 grams, whereas the Sony weighs 630. So it's going to be quite a hefty lens. But you know, and again, let me know whether you think this would be worthwhile instead of the Sony lens. Like I said, I adore that Sony lens that I actually have. It's stunning. I love the focus ring on that. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to have... I don't think it probably will. One of the main things that I love about this one is the actual focus ring can be clicked. It has a button on the side over here, which you can click, and then if you move it, then it becomes a clicked wheel to change your aperture. If you put it down, it becomes declicked, so it's smooth for video, and I really, really love that. I just leave it on that all the time. You can also click it onto A as well, so that it becomes just auto, and then you'd have to use your dials to change the aperture as well. But I really, really love being able to just slide this, especially for video, and I just leave it on that all the time, and I really love that. Like I said, I really adore this lens. It's one of my favourite lenses that I've got. So whether this Samyang will be as good as that, I'm not sure, but obviously it's probably going to be a good lens. I noticed when I read down in the comments down here that people were saying that they adored or loved the 50 1.4. If it's anything like that lens, this will be on my list to buy, no doubt. And other people are saying I'm waiting for the Sigma 35 1.4. So there's a few things anyway that now are starting to be released, you know, which is a good thing, I suppose. So let me know what you think about that in the chat, and I'll come back to you on that as well. This is another interesting thing that I wanted to show with you as well. Now, look, this just came from Sony Rumours, so I'm not sure how accurate that this is until it's actually read by other people and tested fully, because the D850 hasn't even been released yet. I think it's released fairly soon. But what they're saying here is the dynamic range of the A7R II is still higher than that of the Nikon D850, which is really, really interesting considering that that Sony sensor was 2 years old. So it does make you think about how good the new A9R or whatever it's going to be, or the A7R3 or whatever that camera is going to be, what sort of dynamic range are we going to get out of that. So I'm not certain whether, if this is a Sony sensor, and it probably is, it might be Toshiba, but even then that's still Sony owned Toshiba sensors. But it's interesting that the A7R2 still has better dynamic range than what that Nikon D850 has. So, well, let's see too when it is actually released fully and they do compare the two. But at this stage, they're saying from reading this analysis, and I've put these in the comment box down below, so you can have a look at that and let me know what you think. But it's interesting to see that, like I said, that this is why I was saying the other day, and should you sell your Sony A7R II, that Sony A7R II is still a really, really good camera. And I certainly, you know, I'm not going to sell mine, I'm going to keep it. But let me know whether you think that's a big thing. It certainly is a big thing for me. Dynamic range for me is a really, really big thing. Now, I'm not saying the Nikon D850 is not a good camera. It is a really, really good camera, and it has some amazing features. But that's just one thing that I was interested about, was dynamic range. Now, it might be interesting to see if the ISO performance is better on the D850 than it is on the A7R II. So all these things will come out shortly, but the dynamic range, according to that, is definitely better on the Sony than it is on the Nikon. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting comment. So let me go back to here now, because I want to actually talk to you about something on the iPhone that is really, really cool, because I tried to show a while ago this little app that I thought was amazing, because I'm always talking. Let me just make this a bit larger. I'm always trying to get poses and stuff like that, or inspiration when I'm shooting weddings and things like that, because I hate shooting all the time where everything's always the same. So basically what I want to do is I want to show this little app. Now it's called, you'll see that up the top there, which is world's best photographics. It's called Pickpockets. So it's second from the left up the top. So I'm going to open this app up for you. Just let me check you can see. Yeah, you can. And it's a paid app, but basically what it will do, it gives you this little thing that comes up like this. Now, when you're looking at it, all of these people are people that have submitted photos that you can click on to look at. And there's people like Jerry Guionis, there's Roberto, there's Yervant, people like that. Now, I've bought quite a few of these, so you can get a free version of this where you'll get a few of them. But I'll click on one so you can just see what I mean. Say, for instance, I wanted to look at this Cutish. And they're saying they're $2.99 here in Australia. But if I click on them, if I continue, you'll see that I can see 4 here for nothing. And then all the other ones you have to actually purchase if you wanted to go back and see the full things. Well, I've got quite a few that I've actually purchased. Say, for instance, I wanted to look at Jerry Guionis, and I think he's one of the best photographers in the world. For weddings particularly. If we looked at Jerry Guionis, and then there's all these different packages that you can purchase from Jerry. Now, for instance, if I wanted to say get his greatest clicks, and I click on them, these are all the ones that he's picked as being his greatest clicks. But the good thing is that if you click onto one of them, like this, you can then actually see the image that he's taken. But down the bottom, you'll notice there's an eye, and if I click on that, it actually tells you how this was shot. And there's detailed information about what camera was used, and then he gives a detailed description about why he did the shot the way that he did. So these are all really interesting things. If you go back to Roberto, I'll just show you back in here. Let's go mine again so I can find it that way. It's easier. Mine back. If we go to Roberto, greatest clicks. So say, for instance, you wanted one of these, which this was a really beautiful image of Roberto. And if I clicked on information about that, again, he'll say what camera he used and basically give you a description about why he did and what he did to get that shot. So it's a really, really great app. So if you are looking for something that is, you want for inspiration, guys, this is a really, really good app because you find a photographer that is sort of similar to what you would like to do, and then you can just call this up when you're out in a shoot to give you inspiration, for shooting. And I think it's a really, really great app, so I just wanted to show you that. So let me know whether you think that would be worthwhile, but that's called Pickpockets. So if you did want to download that, it's on the App Store. I'm not paid for anything on this. I don't get anything as a kickback from it, but it's great. There's also titles, there's genres, so you can pick out things where all your different genres are done. You can also select things and save them as favorites. So if you had a certain thing and you wanted to bring them up as favorites, I haven't got any yet, but you could bring them up as favorites, and then you could call them up really easily. So before a shoot, you could say select 5 or 6 of these or whatever, or 10, and then bring up just those favorites so you only see those 10, and then you could just flip through them. What a great app. And I love it. It's great. I just sit there just looking through them and just reading about them just for inspiration when I'm not even shooting. It's a really, really good app. So let me know whether you think that would be worthwhile to you guys, but I think it's a fantastic little app. Now, let's go to a shoot, because I want to show you a shoot that I've gone through. Now, just remember too that when we're talking about these, let me just move this a bit over the way. Now, I'm doing these shoots again, that this is my style again, guys, when we're talking about these, that it's very, very sort of dark, and it has that look about it that is typical of my style. You either love it or you hate it. I'm not asking you to like it if you don't like the style, but I'm still going to show you the type of work that I produce. This was shot up in a snowfield, obviously in winter, and it was quite a foggy day. It was really foggy. There wasn't that much snow around. You'll see that as we go through some of the images later on. But it was very, very misty and foggy, and it really added to that mystical feeling that I wanted to get out of these shoots. Often if it's not the right atmosphere, I'll then start to add fogs and atmosphere in, because I do love that mystical type look, and it's part of the editing that I often do. But I didn't really have to do it this day because it was very foggy in itself. So these images are shot with off-camera flash. So I have exposed for the ambient again, and then I've used off-camera flash to just fill in the subject, because I wanted to have it very, very soft as well, in the fact that I wanted to have a soft look, not too flashy. So I hope the images don't tend to look very flashy, and that's the type of look that I was after when I was actually shooting these. Again, if we look at some of these others, if we go to the next one, you can sort of see how soft that the lighting actually was on this. It was beautiful actually, having that misty fog. You can just see the snow sort of just in the background if you look down here. You know, the snow sort of just in the background down here. But all this fog was just natural fog that was there. And I used flash basically to cut through that mistiness and to expose Alicia here. And it was a little bit of breeze, so you can see the wind was just moving her hair just a little bit. But I love how soft this is, but it also is perfectly my style again, in that it's quite sort of dark and mysterious when you're looking at these shots. This was another one again. You can sort of see when we're looking at these, all the flashes were just off the camera. You can see that will give you a guide about which way the lighting is actually coming. Now, I had to use off-camera flash because this had the fog. It was very, very flat. It was incredibly flat. So I had to use off-camera flash. So just outside the frame was my light, which was the Pro Photo, and it did have the grid. So it could direct the light sort of down to that area. But you can sort of see when you're looking at it, if you look at the shadows, that will give you a guide to which way the light's coming, and you can see the fall off sort of coming through here and even through there. So I have sort of tried to get that lovely fall off coming through, but it's still given a very soft look because I use that softbox. Now, if you didn't have a softbox, you could use an umbrella, obviously, if you wanted to. That you could work a number of ways. Again, the next one was I had this massive big blanket, and I asked the girl, the model, to put that around her face just so that she sort of showed her face, and I wanted to sort of get a Game of Thrones type look coming through the image there, which I love actually. I love that. I love the feeling of this, and I love the black and white feeling in it. Again, this was another one just showing how cold it was. I've just got her to grab a jacket, bring the jacket in nice and tight up the top, just around her neck there, so that, you know, it looks beautiful, and it sort of shows how cold it is. Again, you can sort of see the light streaming across her face. You can see there's a bit of a fall off on that side. That's all you need. Remember, you must have shadows. If you don't have shadows, the image is going to tend to look really, really flat. So you've got to try and add lighting. Again, that mist in the background's given a lovely look to these images. Again, this was just one where I've asked her to bring the hat over the head to give that sort of wintry feel about it, and she's just holding it gently. Remember, you've got to try and have those gentle fingers when you're dealing with this sort of stuff, guys, so that's another really important thing. Now, I've taken the colour out of most of these because I wanted that cold feel for this look. So the colour has been desaturated a little bit of these images, and I've done that deliberately for the feeling of these looks on these images. Again, it's just sort of showing that nice blur background. You know, and I think she looks gorgeous just basically coming from it. I've just got her hand just sort of sitting there gently. Another one here is, again, I've shot in black and white. I just wanted to sort of show that cold feeling with this. Let me just move me out the way for this one. You know, and I love the feeling of this black and white too. It does look really, really cold, but again, I think it's just beautiful. I love the contrast and everything that it's got there as well. This is another one where I've just got her sort of sitting down in the snow. You can sort of see how much snow was available there. There wasn't heaps, but it still has that misty sort of feel to the background. You know, and it's, again, this is just perfectly my style. It's just the way I love to shoot. And then I got the girls to put on a Little Red Riding Hood outfit, and I've made this one quite dark, and I've grabbed a basket and we bought some apples, and I put the apples there into the basket, and I had like this Little Red Riding Hood feel to this shot. So I did make this one really, really quite dark. I've added that grungy background to this to make it sort of look like that snowy sort of feel about it as well, like it's really, really cold. Let me just move that over there so I'm out of the way. And then this next one was just a different version of that. Again, it's just the Little Red Riding Hood. I love the colour on the face and stuff with this. And even though it is sort of Little Red Riding Hood, it's still a very dark Little Red Riding Hood, which again sort of perfectly fits my style. You know, it really sort of is the way that I love to shoot. And if I could shoot this all day, I would. And like I said, this is the thing that models will hire me for. They see this work. Like I said, they're not for everyone. I had a guy comment the other day, yesterday actually, on my work to say they were too dark. But obviously that's what he thinks. He may not like that style of work. And remember, style is a personal thing. The people that are hiring me know that I do this. So they're hiring me for that work that I actually produce. And again, the girls would just change different outfits. I had these beautiful logs that were sort of in the background. The only thing I think later on when I did this that bothers me is I should have looked at that when I shot it. I should have got rid of that because it annoys me. I should retouch it out or something, but whatever. So that does bother me a little bit. But overall, the look of the image I think is really, you know, quite beautiful, and I love the way that this image looks. And again, it's had all those tones pulled down to give it that real mystical type feeling about it. Again, I've done the same type of shot. I've just moved a fraction and just asked the model to turn around. And again, it's got that really dark look about it that, you know, that I just adore. That, I mean, you guys will know the type of work I produce now, and it does, this sort of fits it perfectly. Again, if you look at it, this is just Little Red Riding Hood again. I decided to do some standing up ones. And again, the mood was just perfect for this. It was so good that it had that real foggy background, natural background in it, which added that real grungy sort of beautiful mystical look to these images. And, you know, and I just love the way that they looked. This was another one that I did, so I've shot a little bit closer. Again, it's, you know, it's sort of got that mystical type look about it again. And I love that washed out type look as well, even though it's sort of grungy and everything else, but I still love that washed out type look that it's got too. This was a Game of Thrones image that I thought I'd try doing with a blanket that was wrapped around her shoulders. Again, you can see the lighting and the fall off across her face that you can see there that has come across her face. And I love the way the eyes pop coming out as well. So yes, I hope you like those images. Let me know what you think about them. You know, I mean, like I said, style is a personal choice that is very, very hard to sort of get, and you either love it or you don't, I suppose, but it's certainly something that I love to shoot. Let me bring up some questions, because BMP, is your snow at elevation only? Yeah, you can only, it never snows here. We have to go to mountains to get snow. So I've had to go up to mountain tops to get snow shoots here. We don't get snow in Melbourne in winter. We're not cold enough. So let me just bring this over, because I want to bring up some questions now. So let me go back to here, because I'd love you to ask some questions. So let's go for question time. Let me just see if I can enlarge this. All right, so throw some questions at me, guys. So let me just go back over what you're saying for some of these things. A lot of you are just talking about time and stuff there. Let me go down to here. Mike said that 1-inch sensor, take that GoPro. I know, how good is that sensor going to be in that new Sony camera? Like a 1-inch sensor is pretty amazing. It should give amazing 4K video, and even your stills are probably going to be reasonable from that. So wow, I mean, $700, it's probably going to be a really, really good camera. I also love the way you can mount that on top of your camera, and I could shoot two things at the same time, so that could be really interesting for me being a fusion photographer. And also even having it where you can use HDMI to connect to an external monitor, I mean, that's fantastic. You know, like put it onto a small focus HD, something like that. I mean, you know, it's gonna be a game changer. I think it's really, really good. I'd be so worried, GoPro. They must be really, really worried. I am Brown said action cams get hot, especially 4K. So I'll be scared the Sony RX1 will catch fire. Now, that could be an interesting thing. Surely, though, if they've done this, they must have checked that. Well, you'd hope so. So let's wait and see. I might just wait for reviews before I'd think about purchasing one, Tony, just to see, just in case. Mike said, I'm Brown, it doesn't do 4K. Oh, okay. So it doesn't do 4K internally, only output to HDMI. Okay, thanks, Mike. I wasn't quite aware of that. So you do have to have a monitor if you're going to go 4K, and that's probably because of that heating. Because being it makes sense, because being a 1-inch sensor, there would be a hell of a lot of heat being produced in that sensor. So it looks like you only can do that if you shoot it up to a monitor. So, okay, so that's fine. What else have we got? Robert said, hi from Alabama. Delta Dave said, will you use one of these during the ceremonies? And that's the thing, I'm not sure yet. I have used them. I've got 2 GoPros. I've got the latest one and the one before that. But I do use them sometimes set up on just tripods and let them run. So I have got them when I'm doing fusion videos sometimes. I've sometimes used them for first looks, where they'll just be watching the bride or viewing the bride coming towards the groom, sort of set off like that. So I do use them now, but I don't use them heaps. And obviously I will use them sometimes if I'm traveling and I put them on cars and things like that. I love them for that aspect of things. And I have even used them in weddings where I've put them on the suction cup on cars. So they are a really, really good feature, but the Sony one really interests me. But like I said, I'm going to wait for reviews before I actually get it. John, it didn't mention image stabilization, I don't think. So I'm not sure whether it has image stabilization there. Let me go to specs, because let's just try and see if the specs mention that, because I'm not sure. Let's go back to here. Excuse me. Let's just see if it mentions stabilization. Let's go full specifications. It's got clear image zoom. It's got optical zoom. It's saying it's got 21 megapixel. Image processing, image control, noise reduction, dynamic range, exposure shooting mode, drive modes, micro contrast picture. Yeah, it may not have, which is interesting. I don't think it does. Yeah, I don't think it does. So that's interesting in itself. So it looks like it doesn't have stabilization. So there is still room for something like the GoPro or the Sony. So that's interesting. Yeah, so it doesn't look like it's got stabilization, so that is a bit of a problem. What else have we got? Mike said, I was about to get me the TG5 for underwater work, and now Sony got me thinking. Only negative is the f4 lens. Yeah, well, yeah, and the other thing is too, because of that sensor size as well, that will be even different on that. There'd be a crop measurement on that as well. So it's probably, around about an f8. I'm not sure. So it could be interesting to see. So yeah, the TG5 may still be better if you need low light focusing. These are things that you've got to wait and see when this camera's released to see how the ISO is. How is the noise? Obviously now there's no stabilization, so you wouldn't be moving this or moving things because it just wouldn't cope that well. Although I've used the GoPros without stabilization, and I just stabilize them in post, so it's probably still going to be all right. But yeah, the f4 lens, we'll have to wait and see how good that is. Mike said the price is a bit high, in my humble opinion. Now, yeah, that's $700. So how much is the GoPro in the US, guys? I'd be curious to know what the latest GoPro is in the US compared to that. So let me know in the comment box if anyone knows, because I'd be just curious to know know that as well. Weather Seals Ice Love. No, I've lived here most of my life. Oh, we're talking about, that's talking about where people live. Mike said, I own the manual Sammy 35 1.4 and it's a great lens. Also own the FV50 1.4 AF and love that one too. So Mike's also going to get the 35 1.4 for sure. So obviously they're a fairly good lens. I think Sony is a step ahead of all. They are just holding back the technology, and you're probably right. I think they are holding things back. Well, let's wait and see what the A7 III or A7R III or A9R is released. I think they're going to blow everyone's minds, actually. They have to now respond too, because yesterday the GH5 firmware was announced, and that firmware is incredible. The things that they've announced in that firmware are unbelievable. Things like HDR shooting, things like that. There's 400 megabit shooting as well. They really have taken that camera to the next level. So Sony have to probably answer that in their next video camera. So I think we're going to have some amazing things announced in the next Sony for sure. Jarek said, hi David, I have a question for another barrel, we like say in a pond. Are you planning to visit Photokina 218 in Germany? No, I'd love to. I'm not planning, I don't think so. I'm still deciding where to go next year. I'm still debating to go between the US, Europe. I'm going to visit Thailand, I think in probably January or early Feb. I want to go to Phuket and have a beach holiday, so I'm definitely going to be doing that. But I'm not sure yet where I'm going. If I did visit, say, the UK, because I have family over there, if I did visit the UK next year, that could possibly be at a time where I could do Photokina as well while I'm there. What month is that, Jarek? Let me know. I'd just be curious to know. Jim said hello. Hug Susie. Susie's back there, guys. She's watching very quietly. Just keeping me company. Jim said hello to all. Delta Dave said NASA just bought a caseload of D5s. Why wouldn't they opt for the newer D850? Yeah, I'm interested in that. Why on earth did they do that? I don't know either why they'd buy D5s. That's crazy when you think what the D850 has. So whether Nikon have done something special to that camera that we don't know about, that they've adjusted something on the sensor or something or whatever, I don't know. But there may be things that are done a little bit different on that camera. So I'm not quite sure why they would buy that, though. I mean, if I was buying that, I would definitely have bought the D850. Definitely. I wouldn't buy a D5 now. It's like I said to you the other day, I wouldn't buy an A7S II now. I'd buy the A6500 over that camera. I wouldn't buy the Nikon D5. I had the D4S. There's no way, though, I would buy a D5 now. I'd be getting the D850. I think the D5 is basically old technology now. And what they're giving you on that camera is nothing compared to what the D850 is. So I'd definitely be buying the D850. What else have we got here? BMCP said, would you upgrade your A7R II if the A7R III is released with the bigger battery like the A9? No, I don't think so. Look, I'm still really happy with what I've got with my cameras. I'm mostly now using the A9 for most of my things, and occasionally I'm using the A7R II for things like if I'm doing landscape, if I'm doing studio work, if I need the dynamic range. And also if I have to use my ProPhoto B1 flash in high-speed sync or that, because it won't work yet with the A9 because they haven't upgraded the firmware on the Sony remote. So once that's changed, I may alter that a little bit. I'm still really happy with that camera. The file size is perfect. I don't want anything a bit larger, and I think the new Sony camera will have more megapixels. There's rumours it'll have 70. I don't need any more than what the A7R II is giving me. And the dynamic range on that camera is perfect. Look, the focus is not fantastic. It's good. It's nowhere near as good as my A9 or the A6500, but the focus is good. And it's good enough because when I'm using my A7R II, I'm using it in a slower scenario than I am with my A9 or the A6500. So the focus is ample for what I'm using it for. I'm just pulling it out in the formal parts of the wedding ceremony because they're going to blow those things up massive. So I'm using them for that. The A9 is used for the rest of the ceremony. So I'm not going to buy a new A7R III or the A9R. I'm happy with what I've got. What I will purchase, though, if it comes out, is a new A7 700 if that's released. I will upgrade that one straight away. So that's a camera that I will upgrade, but I'm certainly not going to upgrade to a new A7R2 or whatever that will be, A7R3. I'm happy with that camera. I'll probably wait for the next release after that before I upgrade that. What else have we got? Come to Scandinavia. It's beautiful at summertime. Yes, I'd love to. I'd love to come to all these countries. I'll get all to these places sooner or later. Like I said, I've just done 2 trips to New Zealand in a row. That was stunning. If you guys can ever get a trip to New Zealand, you should do it. It's gorgeous. And you guys should come over here. Join me over here and I'll take you all out for a shoot. Bailey said, go to my channel to learn why NASA purchased D50. Okay, so you've got things on there, have you, Keith? Let us know here, because that'd be interesting. So it's September 26th to the 29th, is it? Okay, well, that's interesting. Thanks. Thanks for that, Mike, letting me know when that's on. I'm De Brown said, good evening to someone. Jim Photo said, any A7 II owners here? Well, I was, Jim. I had 2 of them and I've sold them. I have to be honest, I sold them before I thought that the value would drop for the used market. I sold them so that I could purchase basically the A9 and also the GM5, the GH5, because I wanted a camera that was better with video. There's nothing wrong with that camera though. It's still a great stills camera. The issues with the A7 II was the focus was just too slow for me and it didn't shoot 4K. That was the main issue with me with the A7 II. So for me personally, as a fusion photographer that will be doing stills and videos at the same time, not having that 4K was a bit of a game changer for me. That's why I sold those cameras and moved on. If you were thinking about buying one now, I'd get the A6500. And if you get the A6500, you can still buy full frame lenses. So that's the interesting thing about that. You can still use full frame lenses on the A6500. So then if you did go full frame, you've got those lenses to move on to. So it's fine. And the A6500 works great with full frame. Mike said, I'll sell it now and get the A7 III. Is that the A7 II or is that the A7R2, Mike? I'm just curious to know. Mel said, for events, weddings, 42 megapixels, even 32 megapixels is plenty. What I needed is AF accuracy and speed and good IQ in high ISOs. Good dynamic range. These are the basics for events. Yeah, and it is. I think the perfect file size is the 24 megapixel for events. That's why the A9 is the perfect wedding camera, because it is that perfect file size for doing weddings. And like I said, I'll probably shoot 80% now with the A9. Then I'll just do the things like the formals and stuff like that with the A7R2. But most of the wedding will be done with the A9 and the A6500. I mean, that's a great camera as well for wedding shooting. So that's what I'll be using. 36 megapixels is too big to be shooting a whole wedding. Let me come over here. I'll take your word, David, for that short trip. Mike said, I'll sell it now and get the... he was going to tell me what it was. Jim said, thanks. Read the A7 II. I'm thinking of down under in 218. Just let me know, Jim. Yeah, we can have a shoot and a coffee together or a drink. I'd love people to come out and we all get together. Jim said, Mike, threshold of the A7 II. There's nothing wrong with the A7 II. I just sold it because I thought I'd get more value for it, and I did. Jim said, I also have the A6500. Just remember, I think the A6500 is the best fusion camera overall in the world. There's nothing better if you're talking about stills and video than what that camera gives you. It is a stunning camera. For its price, it's incredible. I can't wait for them to release a new one. I'm hoping they bring out a new one with a flip screen and 4K 60p. That would be the ultimate. What else have we got? Mike said, yep, I solely use full-frame lenses on my A6500. The main lens I use on my A6500 is the 24 1.8. My God, I adore that lens. If you can afford it, get it. It is stunning. Then apart from that, I'm using full-frame lenses. I use the 55 to give me an 85mm lens. I use the Batis on it if I want a 135 lens, roughly. Fantastic. I use the 70-200 on it. Brilliant. Great camera. Don't underestimate the A6500, guys. I use that in weddings. Every wedding I do, I'm using that camera. BMP said, I love my A7R2 in studio and landscape, so battery doesn't concern me. David, you need the A9 for most of your work, understandably. Yeah, Mike said he's going to sell his A7R2, and Keith said NASA had a budget and they decided to purchase the 53 D5s for training and their astrophotographers and more. Okay. My A6500 rocks. My best gadget right now. It's incredible. I can't wait to get the HD focus for that. I'm still waiting for B&H to ship it. I don't know when they're going to ship it to me because I can't wait to use that. I'd love to use it with the screen facing backwards. There's things that they have to improve with that. It's the dimming of the screen, which annoys the crap out of me when you're shooting in 4K, and I think they do that for the battery because it will overheat. The other thing too is that's the main thing. I'd love there to be a fold-out screen, and I'd love 4K 60p so I can slow that down in post. If they bring that out, that would be the ultimate camera. But like I said to you already, it's already the best fusion camera that there is. There's nothing better that will do stills and video. What else have we got? Everyone's agreeing that their A6500 is terrific. Keith said, sorry, but I'm very sick today with a fever of 102. Go to bed, Keith. That's not good if you're very, very sick. Go to bed. Have a wine or something. That'll make you feel better. That's what I always do if I'm feeling sick. Plaster myself with alcohol. Then I don't have to worry about feeling sick anymore. I'll be sick in the morning though. Jim said the A6500, I use the 55 1.8 Zeiss. It's awesome. And I said that the other day. The best lens I think for Sony for fast focusing is the 55 1.8. If you need anything in low light, that is always the lens that I'll jump to straight away. I know it's expensive, but I adore that lens. I love how sharp it is. I love the rendition it gives me, but the focus particularly is insane on that in low light. So if you're struggling with another lens, put that on your camera, open it right up, and it will focus incredibly on all the Sony cameras. That even worked well with the A7 II with focusing. It was the only one I could use in low light to give me the ability to focus. Robert said, I have the A6500 and the A7R2. It's a good match. It is. It's a great match. Jim said, A7R2 owners, how large are RAW files? I can't remember. They're pretty big. I think they're around about 90 meg, something, or 100. They're around that, I think, when you uncompress them. Mel said, I agree. 24 megapixels, maybe 30 megapixels is top for weddings. In our country, over 30 megapixels only counts in group pics where 24 to 36 heads are in the prints. You shoot 3 to 34, a dozen people maybe. Okay, you'll need 34 megapixels. Look, it does come in handy. It's great if you're cropping. I mean, that is an amazing thing, and sometimes that has saved me where I've taken a pic and I've been able to crop in, and you really can crop in an incredible amount. So that has saved me, but the resolution is astounding on that. But like I said, if I shoot a full wedding on that, it would take 100 gigabytes, and I can't afford to have that type of storage every time. Whereas when I'm shooting with 24 megapixels, I get roughly about 50. It's half that size. So it's a really important thing for me that 24 megapixels tends to be the perfect size, and I can blow that out to a big poster. Like I said, if you're after recovery, you still can't beat the A9 though. There's nothing better than that A9 dynamic range. Ian DeBrown said, Keith, I guess it's difficult to get medical care. Did you get rained on? It's interesting if you say you can't get medical care. Well, that's all covered here in Australia. I'm not sure how it is in America. We get Medicare here, which means we're covered by everything. We don't have to pay anything over here. It's great, actually. I think it's similar in Canada. He said, I am sick. Have some wine or something, like in Sweden. Jim said, I can't afford the Batis 85. Don't get the Batis, Jim. Get the Sony 85. That's just as good. It's probably better in some ways. When I say better, it will work better with the A9 because it will give you the 20 frames per second. The Batis will only give you 15. So if that's an issue, the Sony 85 is better. Where it isn't as good is it doesn't have stabilization built in the lens, and it also doesn't have weather sealing. So they're two issues. If you're dealing with working outside, you may be better to go for the Batis. But you don't have to have the Batis as an 85. I think if I bought another 85, and I would like another one actually to stick on a second camera, I'd just buy the Sony 85. Really cheap for what it is. It's around $600, not quite 600 US. Great lens, and it's just as sharp as the Batis. It may not have that 3D pop that the Zeiss has, that color, but it's perfect. Let me know. A lot here probably have that lens, and I've heard nothing but good reports about that 85 1.8. Jim said, "Oh, we'll get the Sony 85 then within 2 weeks." Yeah, make sure it's a great lens, Jim. Really, really good. It's fantastic. Like I said, you can't beat that lens. Now, another thing why I've got you here too, guys, I've got Amazon links that I always put underneath the pages. You don't have to be in the States to buy those Amazon links. I've now linked myself to be worldwide. So if you are in the UK and you use my Amazon links, it will go to the UK Amazon store. If you're in Canada, it goes to the Amazon store. If you're in Europe, it will go to all of those stores as well. So don't be afraid to support me by using those links, guys. So I do get a little bit of a kickback whenever you purchase something through the Amazon links. So if you are purchasing anything, you don't have to be in the US to use the Amazon links. It is worldwide now. Jim said, what is the largest print you get from each of the head counts you describe? Well, look, if you're talking about prints, I've done them as big as a wall. I've done massive ones, but they've been shot with the A7R II. I can't remember the largest size in inches, to be honest, but they're massive. I do go really, really large. You can go pretty big with the 24 megapixel like the A9. I probably wouldn't go much past 24 by 30, like really. You probably could, but that's about the maximum size I'd go with those. Whereas the the A7R II, I can do poster sizes. I can do massive sizes with that. Mike said, well, my Samy FE30 51.4 AF also focuses brilliantly fast. Oh, that's good, Mike. I'm glad to hear that. I haven't used any Samy lenses. I've only got the native lenses for me. Richard said, I've got the 85 1.8. Need to get the 55 for my A6 500 too. Yeah, it is a really good lens, Richard, that 55. And it's, like I said, it's fantastic. It gives you that 85 millimeter focal length, which is my favorite focal length. Plus the low light focusing is incredible. Most 85s do not focus very fast, and that's the thing with it. Like the Canon 85 1.2 is terrible. The Sony 1.4 is not very good either. The Batis is not bad, and probably the Sony is not bad, but it will never beat something like the 55 1.8, especially in low light. Yeah, it's always been an issue with 85s, that they don't focus very, very quick. Jim said, Richard, you will love that lens. And I've got another comment here. Somehow I choose the 18 to 105 f4 lens over unless I shoot portrait. I love the 18 to 105. I shoot that all the time, especially if I'm going on holidays. I'll take that lens with me all the time with the 24 1.8. Great lens. Great for video. That lens is superb for video. It's an underestimated lens. Jim said normally you can get away with the 20 to 24 megapixels with 20 to 30 people, as long as you don't enlarge more than 8 by 10 or so. 11 by 14, you can step it up. But 2, you have to have good lenses, yeah. And remember, always, if you're dealing with groups like that as well, always focus into the middle of the group, because that way you'll have your depth of field will be okay front and back. Don't focus on the front. Always focus on the middle of the group. When you're doing it. But yeah, obviously the more megapixels you have, if you're growing large, like massive groups, yeah, you'll need it. Thanks for that, Mel. Richard said he's in love with both. Mel said you have good lenses to resolve well with the edges, not just in the center, and that's true. BMCP said, anyone try Super 35 on the A7R II with the 55? Yeah, I do that all the time. And I when I'm shooting weddings, and if I'm shooting the A7R II, I'll always shoot with 35 to get that crop, because I don't want that 30, 40 megapixel file size. So that's the reason why I will shoot in APS-C, and it's fine. It's quite good. And I will do that all the time. So yeah, that's one solution. Delta Dave, are you going to get a B and a H link? Eventually, yeah, I will, Dave, eventually. They haven't asked me yet, but I will eventually, yeah. At this stage, I've only got Amazon, and I've just been asked to become an Amazon influencer. I don't know how that's any different, but they've asked me just to do that. So I'm waiting on that to be approved, and then I think it means I can have a vanity page where everything's listed that I have got it in links, and it's easier for you guys to do to shop. But eventually, yeah, I will get a B&H link. I think it's more to do with numbers, how many people are following you. Perhaps I just haven't got enough people following me yet. What else have we got? Mel said you can go longer if you get 1 and 2, and you can step it up to, okay, in software. Yeah, he's talking about that increasing resolution. What else have we got? 2470 f4 Canon versus Sigma MC11 on Sony A7 II. Your thoughts, please. I think that'd work okay. Like I said, I wouldn't go that way though. I'd get the 24/7. I'd get the f4 Sony version of that if I had that choice. It's just what I like to do. I don't like using adapters unless I have to, and I'm not using adapters. So for me, it's an important thing to do. If you can't afford to, then obviously that's a solution. If you can afford to, I would just get the 24/7, 2470 f4 Sony version. I am DeBrown. The makeup for your talent in the video Sony A9 Zeiss Batis 85 high-key model shoot was part 3 was excellent. Oh, thanks, Tony. Yeah, look, I always work with good makeup artists. I'm very, very lucky in the fact that I can get that. And I'll always make sure that, you know, I am happy with what they do. So before I even started working with them, they have to send me work that they do. So I'm always making sure that, you know, I'm looking at what type of work they'll do before I actually work with them. But yeah, they were really, really good. Thanks for that so much, mate. Mel said, with massive groups, shoot from above so you can get everyone in the thing. Yeah, and I always do that. I'll often take a ladder and I'll stand on a ladder and shoot down. Therefore, too, they're all looking up, and it's a great thing. The higher up you are, the better, actually. What else have we got? Yes, he said stepping on a chair and stuff like that is good. He's also mentioning the 3-step ladder. That's what I use. I use a 3-step ladder that I'll carry as well. And I do group shots in weddings with that as well. I'll actually have that, and we do that too. So is there any more last questions, guys, before we finish for the day? I'm just about to go and get some lunch. Let me know if you have any last-minute questions. Please, too, if you can, give me a thumbs up. It does help support me on here. So if you can, give me a thumbs up. BMCP said, when the A7R III is released, how long before we all suffer a gas attack? I know, look, it won't be, and I tell you, I hope I don't, but it's hard, and they'll probably come out with some ridiculous thing. I'm going to go, oh my God, I've got to get it. I don't think it'll be released till next year anyway, but it will be probably announced sometime late this year, I think. But like I said, I'm going to try and hold off. I don't want to purchase it. You have to reach a time at some point where you think, I've got enough and I'm quite happy with that at this stage, so I'm going to try. I'll try, believe me, but whether I can hold off. Chad said, hey David, long time. G'day, Chad. Mel said, he's talking about the, he said here, my rule is if you use focal length 85 to 90% of the time, best to go native lens. It pays for itself. Also, adapted lenses may not activate eye focus, and that's the problem for me. That's the reason why I didn't bring any of my Nikon stuff over. Well, apart from the fact you can't autofocus with them, I wanted eye focus to work, and I wanted the fastest focusing that I could get. You'll never get as quick focusing on these adapted lenses as you will for native, and that to me is an important thing because you could miss a moment. So for me, that's why I don't want to work with adapted lenses. I always want to have native if I can. Jim said, thanks ever so much. Thank you. Bring us quality content. Another hug for Susie. I'll give her a big hug after this, guys, for you. She's a bit lonely over there. How you going, Susie? Yeah, she's a bit lonely. She's not looking at me. I don't think she's happy. You don't stand a chance, Dave. You're talking about the gas? Oh, no, please. You guys have to tell me off. If I do it, you guys have got to tell me off because I've got to behave. My wife will kill me. I've got to be good. I've spent so much money this year. Oh. Mel said, thumbs up, always given. Thanks, mate. Thanks so much for that. Now, did most of you let me know too let me know in the comment box down below for once this is finished whether you think you'd be interested in that new Sony camera, because I'd be curious to know whether you think it's worthwhile, whether you think stabilization is going to be an issue, and whether you think it's a bit expensive for what it is. But let me know how you think it will compare to, say, a GoPro. I'd be really curious to that. That looks like it's about it. It looks like it's about my lunchtime. It's coffee time and lunchtime. I'm going to go out and buy a beautiful coffee and have some decent lunch. It's late for, obviously, you guys. So I'll have another couple of broadcasts next week. I am going to do that video color correction video for you soon. I've just about finished that now. I've got a PowerPoint thing that I've put together that I can take you through it, and it's going to give you about how it'll give you some color theory and how that relates to doing color correction in Lightroom and Photoshop. So I'll be giving that probably sometime next week, and I'll also get back onto my setting up your wedding and photography business, because it's been a couple of weeks since I've done one on that too. So I'll also post that for you as well in some coming videos coming up, guys. So that's about it, guys. So Mike said it's the first thing he does when you're coming in. Thanks so much, Mike. So I'm just going to say bye to everyone on the channel here. So I hope you all have a great day. Keith, look after yourself, mate. Stay in bed and have a good sleep in. You got to look after your health, buddy. So it's been a great talk, guys. I've really loved it. You guys mean the world to me, and I don't mean that in any way sarcastically or whatever. It does. I love the channel that we're building up here, and I really, really do appreciate everything that you guys bring to me as well. And I adore these chats that I have with you guys. I'm not sure whether most of you are aware that I was a full-time lecturer for a number of years. I taught photography in a university, a major university here in Melbourne, for 20 odd years, and I adore that interaction with students. And since I've gone full-time again photography now, I don't get that interaction anymore, so it means the world for me to have this interaction with all of you guys, and I really, really appreciate it. And I can't underestimate how much I appreciate you following me and subscribing and stuff like that. So it's just great, and I love the community that we've got as well. So it's terrific. That's what I say. One day I'm definitely going to come and meet you all. All right, guys, well, that's it. So I'm going to log off for the day, and g'day from down under. I always have to say that because it's the typical Aussie thing to do. I'm off to get lunch, and I'll see you again soon for the next live video. Bye, guys.